Texas succeeds from the USA. Let's find out. So welcome colleagues, sellers and mentally uncivil people that are seeing this video. I'm Bausch, and today we are going to look at a scenario where old Uncle Sam basically loses Texas. So if you guys enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. That is always really important, and let's get going. So to start off, I think that you are all at least a bit familiar with what's happening in the USA right now. Texas basically trying to succeed from the Union because some Mexican dudes are now allowed to pass the borders that were basically protected with metal and now aren't because Joe Biden said that you can take that down. And the Texas president didn't like that, and so he said no, keep that there and send like a bunch of soldiers to the border. And now you have this kind of dispute between Texas president and Joe Biden because they both say something different from each other about this crisis. And this could lead, at least according to the Texas president, to a secession of Texas from the Union. So basically, there are many people in Texas that want Texas to get out of the Union. But spoiler alert, it is not that easy, because it is technically illegal for any state to leave the Union. So to anyone who thought that Texas could get independent, it can't. Because if it just self-proclaims independence, the USA will just attack it and declare war onto the state. And you're trying to go independent from the top #1 economy and military of the world. So yeah, don't think that you can just deliberately win a war in nowadays circumstances with USA if you self-proclaim independence. And why is it illegal to actually a state become independent? Well, that actually has its origins in this American Civil War, where basically after many states become angry because they want to keep doing slavery, and with Abraham Lincoln joining the power, he basically said, no more slavery. And people were angry, and so there was the creation of the Confederacy, as many states left the Union to create their own country where slavery was allowed. But then there was originated a civil war, and Lincoln just basically killed them. And, well, not killed them. And Lincoln won the war, and so the United States of America were reformed, the Confederacy was destroyed, and the Constitution was basically changed so that no state can leave the Union because of the American Civil War. And if we want to make Texas independent, we have to change that. So, although we have to change many things besides that, the first thing that we have to change to make legal, at least, for a state to leave the Union is by basically making this American Civil War not happening. If we basically make Lincoln lose the elections, and then eventually, after some time, there are politics and anti-slavery in the United States, so that slavery is indeed reduced, but not completely eliminated, and then it will be eliminated in the future, we will probably manage to make the United States more stable with a more democratic approach to these states that weren't liking the Abraham Lincoln's government. And if there's no American Civil War, there's no legal obligation of a state to remain in the Union, and therefore any state can leave the Union. So, or at least legally, and there are no legal implications on that. So now that we have that solved, we can go back to our own reality. Because besides that, there is many things to change. And an example of that is, well, the support. And many other things. So imagine that this is Texas. I'll draw this better, don't worry. But Texas would have, in our reality at least, no sufficient support to actually win a war against the Americans. Because even if we make a state legal to a state to leave the Union, the USA will probably still declare war on it because they recognize it as a sovereign territory. And Texas, again, doesn't have the military capability of facing the USA. But with this legal transformation in the American Constitution, we can make USA seem like the aggressor into the world and not like the victim here, which can be important in diplomatic relations and in how the world sees the Texas crisis and supports Texas. So if we allow this to happen, we can probably give Texas first more support from countries like Russia, China, that also has its conflicts with Taiwan, and maybe make Texas actually have an advantage of being independent diplomatically in a peace treaty on that war, but who knows. And third, we also can look into the red and blue states map, because if there is another thing that the United States is having problems with, is the American divorce. The American divorce is basically the red states or the Republican states wanting to leave or have a separate way from the blue states or the liberal states, I think, or Democrat, I don't know, because they are having different ideas, different ideals, and that is also creating a certain intense climate in the Union. So we can also try to use that and the fact that many of those red states support the Texas independence and the Texas vote for independence. We can try to use that divorce in the Union to allow Texas to be independent and maybe, just maybe, collapse the Union. Because that would be the easiest way to make Texas be independent, but again, you're trying to collapse the number world economy and military on the world. So basically, our objective is give Texas more support, make it legal for a state to leave the Union, and use the red and blue divorce separation of the Union to our favor. Well, to Texas' favor. Yeah, Cowboys will be happy on this one, but I'll not, because this will give me a lot of work. So let's do this. So automatically, after all the crisis that the United States is passing, Texas just basically gets independent. And now the United States have two options: declaring war on it, or just basically let it be independent legally. The United States will commit a sort of mistake, that is basically declaring war on it when most of its states support the Texas independence movement. This will be very bad, and I'm putting Texas in red, but it actually should be the inverse, but who cares. But this will be very bad, because this, without the Americans knowing that, will be the top main factor for the American international view and international reputation to be damaged. This will make some countries like Mexico, China, Russia, Cuba, and some other countries also in Africa start supporting this Texas independent movement, and some other countries that were friendly with the United States, especially as France, Germany, Poland, Spain, the UK, and many more, to start distancing themselves from the United States, especially with all the problems that the United States is also having with Europe. I can make an episode about that if you want. But because basically they are starting to get far from Europe, but that also has to do with the Republicans, and the blue United States is more of the liberals. So yeah, but automatically with the Texas independence, Donald Trump will just start kicking Joe Biden's ass, saying that, well, this is your fault, which technically it is. But I doubt that Donald Trump would do much better. Well, he would probably just say, hey, Mexico, get the hell out and give me oil, or something like that. Oil addiction, Donald Trump 2024. But basically, with this scenario, you have another thing that we can use. So the red and blue separation movements. So basically, you'll see red and basically red states that support the Republican ideals, basically just revolting people that support Republicans, basically just revolting all over the country, saying that they deserve a separation that they wish. And if this goes right, especially because it would need many international support from many different entities and countries, but if this somehow manages to go right, it will be just really big starts for the collapse of the Union. Trying to not make this so much border gore. So now automatically you'll have many revolts all across the United States, protesting and basically creating the start of the American Civil War V2, or in this scenario V1, because there was no V1 American Civil War. So now, although these tiny revolts will actually start having the advantage here, some because the United States Army isn't just positioned in there, they'll try, especially in these Louisiana revolts, they'll try to make this a big front line over here, because they are near the coast, and they are near Texas, which is also good. They will also start being supplied by countries again, like China, like Mr. Russia over here, but they are with problems in Ukraine, so not that much, and maybe some other countries in Africa. Venezuela, Cuba, there are many countries that could take an intervention of this, but I'm not going to focus on that. Basically, these revolts, especially near Texas, are going to be the main scenario of it. Now, together with also Texas, they'll start right here in this part, making some pushes over here into the border to basically just start having some advances over here into the United States. But near the Texas border with the rest of the United States, it's just mainly desert. And with this situation, the United States will divide its military into 4 parts. One going into New York, the other one going into Florida, and the 2 others going into basically the center, especially focusing on Texas and on the region of Louisiana. So the first will try basically to stop this advance over here because it is too near Area 51, which is not good. And they will start basically also just killing some of the other revolts, because there's just no way that all of these stay alive. So now that the map is a bit cleaner, we can start, they also get this Florida revolt, we can start with some other red pushes, because although some revolts are taken, many other people in many other regions just try to do the same thing. And right here in Florida, things are not looking too good as the Florida revolt starts taking on the coast. Right here, Texas, together with some help of now Chinese troops that are here training Texas troops, they basically managed to get all of these into themselves, and eventually it will be something like this. And although you might say that Mexico wouldn't support the Texas Revolution, well, it's kind of odd, like how would they do it? Because on one hand, like Texas doesn't like Mexico, and on the other hand, Mexico doesn't like the United States, and it is quite difficult because Mexico would try to annex Texas, but that wouldn't work. So just imagine that Mexico is dumb and doesn't know that Texas will reject the Mexican annexation. So now that the Louisiana territories are basically all united here, they basically create a decent front line over here, while also there is the big Montanan front line over here, and all of these revolts manage to now have a supply line in the north part, having a border with Canada, and now trying to extend that influence over here in the north part with Canada. And although this is extremely border gory, just ignore that all. And again, they'll just keep pushing over into the coast until the United States just basically manages to stop all the advances that they were having, eventually just getting through Texas border and just start pushing into their own borders. They basically will try to stop any Louisiana advance to Florida, focusing more military on Florida, attacking main points that the revolts were having, and yeah, of course, the Florida revolt will just not be able to stand that much. And now all of these will just basically get thrown out. But again, just because the United States is getting all of these revolts, doesn't mean that these revolts will stop. They will of course now start their invasion of Texas, but just because the United States manages to kill these revolts, doesn't mean that the people will start protesting. Quite by the contrary, it will be just a motive for them to continue protesting, which is not very good for them. And that's how they will basically get their advantage, is by the people protesting. And so the United States will now understand that with the start of more revolts in the states of Florida, in the states of well, whatever is in the center of the United States, Michigan, right here in Maine, right here in more Florida, Louisiana, and especially Alaska, that they will understand that it is useless to keep fighting and that their international reputation is already damaged. They understand that the only solution for this conflict is indeed basically a political divorce, and that the people are really angry, which I didn't know that you hadn't noticed yet. And in a piece read you can see that many things change in America, so let's get a look at it. And it is at this time that I have two scenarios here. One is a creation of the Confederacy, or the recreation of the Confederacy, where the Confederate States basically just get back, which will just basically provoke the really American divorce, and maybe they will just unite with Texas. Or the other possible scenario that I see is basically the Confederate States just don't happen, and you have just a small increase of Texas territory over in Louisiana, because there were major revolts in the Louisiana region. But besides that, you wouldn't have just any more territorial loss to the United States. Remember, guys, this is a totally unrealistic scenario. There's no way that Texas will get independence. They might tell you that, hey, it will happen, but there are just too many other implications, economically, politically, that are not being considered in this video. And so this video is an unrealistic scenario of how could Texas get independent by, not that much unrealistic, but a bit unrealistic, but by trying to change history into this being able to happen. But tell me what you guys think. And don't forget one thing. This is just a theory. A mapping theory. Thanks for watching.